What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another GTA 6 video. My name is Saintsfan, and today I wanted to do something a bit interesting. I wanted to revisit the leaks from 3 years ago, the 2022 leaks, because we are actually approaching the 3-year mark. I forget specifically what date they did end up releasing on back in 2022, but it was in the month of September, like middle September. And I do think a lot of us maybe have forgotten about some of the contents in this leak. And I did make the video not too long ago talking about realism, if there should be more or less realism. Well, there's actually some really interesting things in this leak that point to a lot more realism coming in GTA 6. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop in. This is the GTA document. This basically summarized the leaks. It didn't share any of the footage because I still don't think we can share the footage, unfortunately, but they recreated a bunch of images and stuff. So if you haven't checked this out, I'll leave a link to this in the description. It does go over a little intro if you don't know the lore of the leak, but we're not going to talk about that. It has table of contents. There's like 80 pages or something in it. I guess the only thing I will mention, this is coming from 90 video clips that were leaked by the guy. And of course, people dove into those 90 video clips and found all of this information. But yeah, let's go ahead and just hop in and see what I think at least is very interesting stuff that, again, maybe some of us maybe forgot. So I don't want to focus on the characters too much, but they do have a couple of extra characters that we've not seen in the trailers and that Rockstar's not mentioned, which is a bit interesting. This part, though, I think is very interesting. The items and the tools section. And again, none of these icons are from the leaks because they couldn't do that, but these were all in those leaked videos. And I guess before we do get any further, this is 3 years old. This was from, let's say the alpha version of the game. Some of this stuff might have been cut. Take it, I guess, with a grain of salt. But these were some of the things that Rockstar did add to the game initially. An auto dialer, which is automatic calls for fraud and technical. I'm not entirely sure what that would be. Binoculars, that's something I think that's a bit new, which could be useful for like hunting or I don't know, something out in the wilderness. The immobilizer bypass. Now, I did mention this in that realism more or less video, but it looks like Rockstar are actually going to have vehicle stealing be a little bit more of a process. This immobilizer bypass is primarily for luxury cars, because I guess presumably they'll have better security. So you'll need one of these immobilizer bypasses to unlock and steal them. But this is what I was saying in, the realism video. It's not just as simple as, oh, I see a fancy car, let me go up to it and hit Y or hit triangle or whatever. You're going to need this to get it. Now, maybe you can still shoot out the window and break into it that way. So maybe there will be not a reason to have this, but yeah, again, Rockstar added it. So they are trying to go for a little bit more in-depth of a process here. There's some other stuff. There's a cutoff tool. Not entirely sure what that could be used for. Maybe wires, I guess, or like gates. If there's locked gates, you might need that. As far as health and stuff, they have painkillers and they had trauma kits. So maybe even health won't regen in GTA 6. Maybe you'll need a trauma kit if you want full health, or painkillers if you want to have your health slowly go up. There was even the food and drink items, which they call them recovery items. So again, maybe that will help with your health if it goes down. Over here on the right, you can see there's a couple of stuff. These are just weapons, I think. Pool cue, a golf driver, a putter, more golf stuff. There was actually a USB drive, and this is all stuff that was in Jason and Lucia's inventory. So this isn't just some random stuff. This is something that was in their inventory that you could access. So why would you need a USB drive? I have no idea, but you could only imagine and speculate, what this could be a part of, like what you could actually use this for. Again, crowbar, weapon. Here's the other car item, the Slim Jim. It says in the leaks, this unlocked car doors. It can't open newer cars though, with internal defenses such as barrier blocks and shrouds for operating rods and locked cylinders. So it may only be used for older cars. So again, that's another thing. I would imagine they're not going to be too hard to come by. Like you can probably just easily get these in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how, because you can't just go to like a gas station and buy them. But I don't think Rockstar is going to make stealing cars too annoying, but there are these two different items. There's a Slim Jim for like older cars, less advanced cars, and then there's this immobilizer bypass for the fancier cars. So that right alone is kind of a major thing, a major switch up for a GTA game. We also have flashlight, which we all, we have that in GTA 5. Here's another interesting one, a tracker jammer. It is used to prevent GPS tracking devices from receiving or transmitting signals. It may be used in the game to prevent police from finding you. So that also is a pretty interesting little thing. Let's say you're trying to commit a crime. Well, if you have a tracker jammer, then maybe you don't get the cops on you. Or maybe instead of getting, 2 or 3 stars, you only get 1, and it's easier to evade the cops. So like, again, you can only imagine the things you can do with stuff like this. They also added cigarettes, and then a couple of loot bags. We had a duffel bag and then also a backpack. And presumably, I think also was mentioned in the leaks, these items, these bags, these additional bags, that's how you're going to carry more weapons. Because in the leaks, and maybe we'll see it here in the weapons section, you could only carry a specific, like a limited amount of weapons like you did in RDR2. So yeah, I think this section is actually really cool because some of the stuff we've never seen in a GTA game. So it's going to be really fun to see how that all plays out. And hopefully they didn't like take this out. Hopefully this is going to still be in the game. But let's continue. Weapons, again, I'm not going to go over all the weapons, but there was a spear gun, which I think is going to be very, very fun to use. There's smoke grenades, so maybe that'll be useful in some scenarios, but, normal weapon stuff. Here's the weapon wheel, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I have made a ton of videos on this already, but this is, in essence, what the weapon wheel looked like, and this was back in 2022, so maybe they've scrapped this and they're just going to allow you to carry every single gun like you can now. But I hope they don't, because I do like this system where you only had a limited number of handguns and maybe a limited number of rifles. But then if you did have the duffel bag, you had a bigger stash for some of the bigger weapons, like an RPG or something. It looks like this is still more than the weapons you could carry in RDR2, but it's, again, not unlimited like in GTA 5. And they also had over here, I'll try and zoom in, they had this section, it wasn't just for weapons, there was equipment and then gear. So you actually did have different wheels for the equipment and the gear. So again, that leads to more speculation like, well, what could be in the equipment? What could be in the gear? Here's another really interesting tab. And again, maybe some of these things end up getting cut, which would be a little disappointing. Hopefully not too much of them though. Hopefully we get all of them. We've seen a few of these in some of the screenshots, like fishing. Of course, we saw Jason fishing, but here are some of the activities in those leaks that Rockstar haven't mentioned before. Van shipments. This is going to be something that you probably just can rob. We have that in GTA 5, but hopefully it's maybe you get a little bit more out of it. Of course, robberies. That's the main video. I think everyone saw the Hank's Waffles robbery video. You can probably go into a lot of other stores and do that same sort of thing. There are some events for deliveries, so if you want to make some money that way. But the other activities at the top, golf, races, scuba diving, dice. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more. We saw Jason and Cal shooting basketball, so maybe that's going to be an activity. Obviously, Lucia does her fighting stuff, so I think we're going to have plenty of activities to do. There was also the section on the new additions to GTA, stuff we've never seen before. And unfortunately, there was a recent leak that said this one, the ability to go prone, has been taken out. I hope that's false. I hope that's not true, because you would probably not use it that often, but having the ability to go prone would be just a nice thing to have in GTA. Here's one that's interesting, just because if you are playing as Jason and Lucia and like you're a duo going everywhere, if one of them gets, shot too much, instead of just dying, there might be an option to self-revive or just revive them. Now, I don't think we've seen this in any of the trailers, but in the leaks at least, there was plenty of instances where the character was shooting out of the car with like an assault rifle. So it's not just limited to pistols. There was actually an eagle eye system for Jason specifically. I think that's going to be his special ability, like they had in GTA 5. Now, Lucia's, we still have no idea, but Jason's special ability seems to be some sort of eagle eye system that is used to highlight items of interest, such as jewelry, safes, and security cameras. So that's kind of cool. Leads to some cool things maybe that you could do with it. But again, who knows what Lucia's would be. There was actually a way to carry bodies in the leaks. Maybe that's going to be used more in online, but like you could throw a body over your shoulder. Maybe that's actually a way you could hide from cops. Like if you do something bad and you kill someone, you hide the body and then the cops won't be able to find you. There was also this section, the new gameplay systems, where there was money laundering mentioned, fences. Of course, if you have stolen items, you would go to a fence to sell it. There was a car fence mentioned, an art fence mentioned as well. So I guess, again, they're taking some stuff from RDR2 and they're adding it to GTA 6. I guess this right here explains what the USB drive could be for. Maybe Lucia has something to do with hacking. Maybe that's her special ability. But again, that's something new kind of to GTA 6. Hopefully it's not as like bare bones as it was in GTA 5 with just like finding the right numbers or whatever it was. But hacking might be a pretty big part of this game. Maybe you have to hack buildings to open or gates to open or something. That could be what the USB is for. Speaking of all of this like inventory stuff, there was a sharing items section of this. So I think it's logical to assume that both Jason and Lucia will have their own separate inventories, but there will also be a shared inventory between them. So you don't have to constantly fiddle with, you know, moving stuff to one character or the other, which of course I think is very good, but that is very interesting. There was even smoking, and we did see at the top at the beginning of this video, there was cigarettes you could get. So maybe smoking is similar to RDR2 in that you do it, maybe it hurts your health, maybe you gain another little bonus to something, you know, shooting or I don't know, some other stat. One of the things that I think we've talked about a few times, but I will just mention it. There's the new police system where the cops don't just show up when you commit a crime, because in the Hank Swaffles robbery clip, they were obviously robbing the store or the restaurant. And there was actually this timer until the cops did show up. It was time until cops dispatch, and you could see the bar, you know, going down. It maybe took 30 seconds to a minute. I don't know exactly the time, but that is pretty new, and it's a lot more immersive and I guess realistic. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully that again stays in the game. Again, I'm not going to go over everything, but if you do want to read through the attention to detail section again, we got to see a lot of attention to detail in the trailers and in the screenshots that they've released. But if you do want to see even more that they were doing back in these leaked videos, there's a whole bunch of pages on that. So that's really cool. Rockstar for sure is cooking up some good stuff. There's also the events page, which there's like 1,500 events, I think. There's quite a lot of events. So this is all the stuff that you'll end up seeing just around the world, like NPCs doing stuff, or I guess stuff that will happen when you drive near it. Think of the little blue dots that appear on your minimap in GTA 5, but just on a much grander scale. Now, maybe some of these, maybe a lot of these might get cut just because, again, there's like 1,500 of them, but there are a lot of these that are very cool sounding. So hopefully the cooler ones don't get cut, and hopefully they do end up making it into the game. But yeah, there's like 1,500, something like that were found in those leaked videos. So that's a really interesting page to revisit and read about. And then it even goes over the vehicles, but I don't think you should take this too serious, because I think back in 2022, they were probably just using placeholders for a lot of vehicles. So some of the stuff probably isn't that accurate. We have enough knowledge of the vehicles from the trailers and the screenshots, the official stuff they've released. So yeah, I don't think I'd pay too much attention to that if you are revisiting this. And then it even goes over locations. And this is why some of the concept maps we've seen have some of the locations they do. A lot of it is from this leak, like Lake Leonida. That's something we have not seen yet officially. Well, we saw a sliver of it in one of the Ambrosia screenshots, but they've not really mentioned Lake Leonida. Like, we don't even know if that's going to be the official name of it, but it was mentioned in the leak. So that's why people bring it up on the concept pages, on the concept maps. And then I think the last part of this document goes into the real life buildings, because of course people found the real life buildings, and you know, there's a lot on that as well. So I really just thought this was interesting, because I was curious, because obviously, you know, we haven't really looked at the leak stuff in quite some time. So revisiting these leaks here, after we've seen the official, trailers and screenshots, I thought that was actually very, very interesting to see, I guess, how far things have come. And I guess what also Rockstar is keeping a little secretive. So if you want to take a look at this a little bit more in detail, I will leave a link to it in the description below. So check it out if you want to. But that is going to go ahead and do it for today's GTA 6 video. While we wait, while we're in the drought, figured we might as well revisit some of the old stuff that we knew back 3 years ago, which is crazy that that's been 3 years. But thank you guys for watching. Please just drop the video a like if you did enjoy, subscribe for more GTA 6 content, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.